Alright, what's up people? Rhyming. So I just want to give you an update to how the Japanese studying has been going. So today I just did the test, JLPT 5. And so I'll tell you about the test, I'll tell you about how I've been studying, I'll tell you about the great changes in my life because I was studying Japanese. And I'll tell you about what I plan to do after. Well, what's next? I just finished JLPT 5 and what's next. So that's the overall structure. It'll probably be about 30 minutes, but I might go over a little bit. So let's begin. So, the test. So the test was pretty straightforward. It's about 2 hours plus a half an hour of breaks and then the person talking for like 20 minutes giving instructions in Japanese that I didn't study yet. And but this is kind of funny. It's not really funny, but so yesterday I went yesterday I said I'm going to go to the test place so I don't get lost, because I'm really bad with maps and Google apps and all that. So I thought that I have the postcard, it says go to Harajuku. So I went to Harajuku and I'm looking at the thing and it says go to this exit, and the layout was perfect. It looked like Harajuku. I'm walking around for 40 minutes and then I go into a convenience store and I say, hey, can you help me find this school? And the guy looks at it and he's like, oh, you gotta switch trains. So I walk out of the store and I'm kind of like, this man can't read Japanese. And I'm starting to, what? He can't read Japanese, man. I'm about to go back in there and da-da-da-da-da. So then I look at the card and I see that it didn't say Harajuku. It said some other place, which is not Harajuku. And from Harajuku to the place where the test is being held, it's at a college, it would take about an hour. So if I would have went today to Harajuku, made the same mistake, and then try to get to the testing place, I wouldn't have made it. So it was great that it's great that I know how I am, and I prepared by getting lost the day before, so I would be on time today. So yeah, so I go to the testing place and it's filled with people. Not so many Americans, I guess you can say. I don't know. A lot of non-English speaking folks were there. I would say 70% in the JLPT 5 were of Indian descent, or in that region of the world. If that makes sense. I'm sure if you go onto the JLPT site, it'll have the breakdown of the nationalities that took the test. But I was surprised because I thought, since so many foreigners in America love Japan, they would be all up in there getting their study on, but it wasn't the case. And anyway, so but for me to prepare for this test, I think I made the last video, it was about 2 months ago, April 27th, right after my birthday. And just let me go through what I've been studying with. So I started with this dictionary, and it's cool. And I was working through, well, this is all the books I read, but I was working through this book first because it's kanji, and some of the words weren't in here. It was so frustrating that I'm sitting there searching for a word that's not in here, and it's not in here, and I'm all like, why isn't it in here? So then I switched to a Casio little electric dictionary, and Sometimes the word wasn't in here either, which was really frustrating. But it is what it is. So, so I was doing this kanji. So I studied about 108 kanji in this book, and it so happened that on the JLPT 5 test, there's only 5 kanji, and they were the easiest kanji that I have ever seen in my life. I mean, for those who study Japanese, you know, all the days were in hiragana, so it's like, and then they had little furigana on top of the names of people, and they're all like Tanakas and Yamadas, which. But anyway, you know, now I got a bunch of things, and I used Genki 1 with the workbook. So these two guys, and you know, the grammar. Grammar was really hard for me because, you know, learning a new language, you're going to be confused, and I didn't have. I mean, I asked a lot of people, hey, explain this, but I need like a good 20 hours for someone to explain this little point. Once I get it, I got it, but someone telling me some weird way won't work for me. But I like Genki, and I got the app, the Genki app for the vocabulary, and the Genki app for the kanji, and they even made a Genki app for the conjugation, but I don't like that one so much because you just sit there and conjugate things and you gotta type it in. Maybe it's good practice. I don't like it. So I was using these two, and I mean, I got the answer key because some books don't give you the answers. I'm like, what's the point of doing all this? Because then if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. The only problem with the Genki book, it's more of a textbook for a classroom, so there's a lot of partner work. I don't got no partner, so I'll be talking to myself. Hey, what you want? But it doesn't work. I need the spontaneous type of answer from some classmate that doesn't exist. Alright, I also am studying this one. I'm in a class, so every week we go through this, but we're going really slow. So actually this is how it worked. I got this book, and I was going through the class, and I was like, damn, this is really hard. So I went to the teacher, I'm like, am I supposed to know this stuff already? She's like, yeah, you should know all this because this is 2. And so then I got Genki 1, and I completed Genki 1, and they didn't even complete the 2 book yet. Anyway, that's another story. Alright, so then after I finished the Genki book and the workbook and this kanji book, I went into this book. So it's basically just it's the first test. So it teaches you how to take the test, which was great because when I took the test today, I didn't have to read the instructions. I just knew it's going to be in this format, and I could just jump right in there and bra bra bra. Like the first section, it's kanji, those 5 kanjis, and then they have katakana. Anyway, so I knew what was coming, so I could just look at the kanji, then look at the 4 choices, and then figure that out. And then I went to this book, another one, and you see it says 4-5. This one kind of threw me off because they're putting some grammar points that is not in 5, it's in 4, but somehow it managed to be on the 5 test. So when I went to the teacher and I'm like, hey teacher, this doesn't make sense to me. She's like, oh, that's level 4 and blah blah blah. So I didn't like that, but it's good practice. It got me thinking harder. So today I was able to just speed right on through. Alright, then this book, I was on the web and it said it had 3 tests in there, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. 3 tests for the price of 1. And then finally on Saturday I did the official practice test from them, and as I said, nothing was surprising when I took the test because I went through all these things, and yeah. Okay, so moving on. Next, what has changed since I've been studying? Well, I mean, I'm still doing what I've been doing. I have a direction now. You know, taking a level 5 is not going to change your current circumstances so significantly, but it kind of gives you a general idea of what's to come. Or for me, it's giving me a point to go. So my next step is to go to level 4. And then I'm going to jump to level 2. Somehow. I don't know. But yeah. So for me, the next step, or actually, we are skipping a part. What has changed? So for those who are new to my channel, I have been one to say that well, I had my excuses for why I'm not studying Japanese. And just a couple of months ago I met with this guy, and he just said, you know, I didn't study Japanese when I got here. And then one day I said, I gotta study Japanese. And then he studied by himself, and then he was able to get into a position which I kind of want to get into. He works for Billboard. It's a music thing, you know, and he's kind of in the know. He knows what's going on in the music. If I call him up, he can actually tell me what's actually going, and it's not hearsay. And I thought that was really cool. And that's something, I don't want to do that exactly, but, and you know, he just broke it down. We talked for like 2 hours or whatever. So, why not? Let me study. Boom. So, you know, I prepared, alright. So here's my degree, alright. So Temple University. With a nice 4-year college degree, you can get to Japan and teach English. Teaching English is great, you know. You got nice hours. You could do eikaiwa, where you work with a bunch of other foreigners, and it's fun because y'all can go out and drink beer and do what foreigners do, and blah blah blah. But you have to work on Saturday and Sundays, and but you know, some people like that. Or you could work with elementary kids or whatever. But junior high school is where I work, so you know, I get the summers off. In 2 weeks I'm going to have about 8 weeks of vacation. I get paid for this. Great time. So you know, 4-year degree. I got a BA. Alright, so here's my 2-year degree. So with a 2-year on top of your 4-year and whatever else you got going for you, you could kind of figure out how to make it work. Yeah. So now I'm teaching. I have some students at Apple, which is great because you know I use Apple products, and now I'm teaching some Apple students, and I get to go to Roppongi and go up to like the 39th floor, and you know, and it's mostly because of this. You know, when I went to the interview, it was like, oh, you got an MBA, you know, and they're all excited, and yeah. But now this is just my opinion from my extensive research, but you don't gotta take my word for it. If I want to work for Billboard or for Sony or for Avex or for some venture capital company that's supporting the local hip hop scene through blah 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 blah, I need to speak Japanese. Or I need to get like a 20 platinum records back to back in America, or I need to be like the #1 YouTuber in the world, or you know, those type of things. But if I speak Japanese with my 4-year, with my 2-year, and everything else I got going for me, then I'll be able to do some of the things that I want to do, if that makes sense. So that was kind of what changed, kind of click, changed. And another thing that changed is when I talk to other foreigners, you know, it's like, what you doing? I'm like, you know, I just graduated from MBA school and now I'm studying Japanese, and they hit me with, well, I want to study Japanese, but I don't got no time, or it's too hard, and they got all these excuses. Excuses are cool, we all have them. And I had mine. And if you want to hear my excuses, you can Google Rhyming Gaijin why he doesn't speak Japanese, and it's right there. It's about 20 minutes. I was using my green screen technology back in the day. So I don't really want to hear other people's excuses. And, you know, it's truthfully, either you do it or either you want to do it or you don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, just say you don't want to do it, which is what I did say in a lot of people hated or disliked that, but you know what they say, you can't really listen to people. But they didn't like it, but it's the truth. I didn't want to study Japanese, so I didn't study Japanese, but I did study Japanese. But I didn't want to tell people I did study Japanese. Why am I whispering? Because that's what I want to do. But yeah, so it irritates me when I'm hearing these foreigners telling me that they don't have time. Because there's 24 hours in a day. Let me tell you about my 24 hours and how it works. So I go to school. I need to be in the seat by 8:30. Otherwise, they consider me late. From my house to the school is about 30 minutes. So that's 8, and then 8 o'clock. And then, I got to walk to the station. That's like 7:50. And I walk really slow, so add another 10 minutes. So that's 7:40. And, I usually go to the convenience store in the morning to get some warm bread. So that's about 7:30. So that means I should leave my house, or I should be on the train at 7:30. So from 7:30 to from the time I wake up to 7:30, that's when I study. So I usually try to get up at 5, but usually it might turn into 5:30. And then for that time in between, I read a chapter, or I do my kanji, or I do my listening, or I do something. That's free time. And then on the train, I have my apps I told you about. So I just kind of like a flashcard type of whatever. I had this one app, but I didn't know you can draw on the app. So for kanji, I was air drawing for like a week. But then I found out you could do it with your finger, which either way, practice is practice. So I do that, and then when I'm walking to school, the app's here, so I could swipe, swipe, swipe. And then at school, I might ask a teacher a question. Hey, why is this? And then they get all, I don't know. And then I come home, more apps. Then I get to my house, and then I study for another hour or two. And then before I go to bed, I try to get some more studying in. And if I have a holiday, or if there's a holiday, same thing, right? I try to study, get up early so I can and there you go. Now, it's not like I study 24 hours. When I get tired of studying, I might go watch Vine for a while. Or I might go to Sataya and rent a movie and, relax and, okay, time to get back. So when someone's telling me they don't have time, it's because they don't want to have time. If you want to watch your drama, your American dramas. I actually met a guy the other day. He said something like this. He said, when I was living abroad, meaning where his home country was, I used to study Japanese all the time, used to watch mangas and all this. When I came to Japan, I just didn't have time. Now I watch American dramas in English, and we're in Japan, so we don't need to speak English, or we don't need to speak Japanese because we speak English. He's going on and on and on and on and on. Excuses. Okay, if you wanted to, you do it, and if you don't want to do it. And then he gave the analogy. Studying, it's like, I'm not even going to give you this analogy, but it just irritated me. I don't want to hear your story. All I'm telling you is I'm studying. You don't need my backstory. Just know that I'm doing that now. And if you don't want to do it, just don't try to talk me out of doing it. Just go away. So yes, so that kind of change happened. Kanji are now, I like kanji. Kanji to me are like little puzzles, little pieces, and you got to put them in there. So when I'm on the train or out and about, I'm looking around for kanji. Like, hey, I know you, like we're friends. Hey, what's up? I know you. 10 strokes. Hey, like that. And it's fun. And anything else? I guess that's the big changes in my life, studying Japanese. And yeah, I seem to get more annoyed with people who don't study Japanese, which I'm trying to keep it to a minimum because I hated people, not hated, but before, people who would yap about people come to Japan, don't study. Everyone's different. They have their own cycle, I know a lot of fluent Japanese speaking people, but they are not in the best physical condition, or they are alcoholic, or they are addicted to casinos, or whatever. So it's great you speak Japanese, but fix the rest of your party life. We all have our own thing. So I'm trying to be balanced. I want to hear their excuse, and okay. but it will help you, or at least, look at me. This is where I was, and this is where I'm going, and this is going to get me in that direction. Because, a couple years from now, I do not want to hear someone come up to me and say, how do you learn to speak Japanese? I'm going to say, I learned the same way that you refuse to do. Or I learned the same way you learn to read a book. You just do it. And that's how I did it, I think in this book, they give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little squares, 5 little squares. So I must have, I learned 100 kanjis. So I must have wrote each kanji about 5 times. So that's 500 times I wrote a kanji. And then, what do you call it? Then, you got to answer questions, so I wrote some more. So yeah, after that, it's kind of, like on the test, there was a question, it was a hanbun. And I was like, oh no, and they put a hat. I mean, that's my method of, anyway, so they put a hat on the thing, and I was like, that ain't right, because when I draw, it was just like, pew, pew, no hat. So I make all these sound effects, and that's how I figured out. If I didn't draw, I wouldn't have remembered it that way. So yeah, yeah. Alright, so moving along, I'm thinking I hit my 30-minute mark. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually pause this movie here. I say movie, but we're going to pause it just so, yeah. So let me cue myself out with the music, and we'll come back to part 2 in a second, alright? There's the music.